The Paul Farrington Show. Just a solo reaction tonight to the Cowboys-Packers game there. Just a unbelievable football game. I was watching it with my friend Matty A, who's a Cowboys fan. My sister was watching as well, and just an awesome game. And it kind of a tie never feels good, but that game, if there was ever a game that was going to end in a tie, that one seems like it almost deserves to, with the way the two offenses were playing the whole night, back and forth. Obviously, if you're a Packers fan watching this, you're really bummed out about that defensive performance. But one big takeaway is that Jordan Love just was unbelievable tonight. Time in and time out, he delivered when he had to. The end of the game there, that might be the one spot where you're going, Jordan, what's going on here? We don't want this to turn into a Caleb Williams against the Lions situation. And as that clock's ticking down, like you just need the situational awareness to say, hey, we just got to spike this thing and take the tie. Like we cannot under any circumstances have that ball snapped, especially under 10 minutes or 10 seconds in the game. You're watching that. If I were a Packer fan, I would have been freaking out completely. But fortunately for you guys, it winds up 1 second on the clock and McManus bangs another one through to make it 40-40. But this one was one that it probably feels like if you root for Green Bay, you let one get away here. Not in the sense of what happened towards the second half, but with the start of the game, you get out to that 13-0 lead. We talked the entire week about how the Packers were in a perfect spot to get right against a Cowboys team that just got eviscerated by Caleb Williams and the Bears. And, the offense did. The offense was great all night here. Jordan goes 31 for 43, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. He sacked only one time. Josh Jacobs, who I said, look, Josh Jacobs had played well, but I said you really got to get some vintage Josh Jacobs from last year. He was fantastic tonight. Only finishes with 86 yards, but he gets the ball in the end zone twice on the ground. A couple big-time runs, big-time catch to set up the McManus game-tying field goal. You got to be happy with what you had from him. Obviously, Romeo Doubs goes for 3 touchdowns, a career high for him. Matthew Golden, the huge catch in overtime. It was a great game for the offense, and you feel great about that. I wasn't particularly happy with the way Green Bay handled, again, Viking fan, but objectively, I wasn't happy with the way Green Bay handled it inside of that final minute there. With 40 seconds left, you have 1st and 10 from the 13-yard line. Just take that time out. 40 seconds left, regroup. You have plenty of time to run all 3 plays. They only wound up being able to run 2, essentially, with the way it worked out before the somewhat throwaway by Jordan. But you saw the screen attempt to Golden that just got absolutely lit up. Romeo Doubs, for the great night that he did have, completely whiffs on Trayvon Diggs, who, to be fair to Trayvon, recognized the play immediately, dashed in and made a huge play. That basically tied the game, in my opinion. If Green Bay takes that timeout, 40 seconds, you regroup, I wouldn't be surprised if they wind up winning this football game. But look, guys, I know a lot of people are going to be upset with the way the defense played, and you should be, obviously. That was giving up 40 points is terrible. Dak Prescott is one of those guys, though. When he gets it going, he really gets it going. The thing to be pissed about is, there's no CeeDee Lamb here. And outside of George Pickens, you weren't really thinking you're going to get, was it Flournoy? I don't even remember his name. Ryan Flournoy had a couple big catches. Jalen Tolbert had that ridiculous chuck up down 40-yard pass at the end of the game. It was an evening where we all expected Micah Parsons to come out and dominate. And maybe there was a little too much pressure on Micah in the moment. Everyone's saying he's going to have 4 sacks and Green Bay is going to find a way to completely, destroy Dallas up front. That's not what we saw. On the night, Green Bay had 5 QB hits and 1 sack. And this was not a very good Dallas offensive line either. So that's one spot where you're watching this game going, where's Micah? Where is he? I know he left the game a little bit. He re-aggravated, I guess you could say, that lower back. But the Green Bay defense had been sensational this entire season, right? I mean, you go back to week 1 against Detroit, forcing turnovers. Week 2 against the Commanders, they shut down Jaden Daniels. Last week, forget about the way that game ended. The Green Bay defense, for the most part, completely shut down the Browns. And out of nowhere tonight, it's looking like you're going to have the same storyline. And then that blocked extra point happened. And when in live time, I didn't really expect it to be that important of a play. because, Green Bay is just in complete control here. The Dallas offense had gone 3 plays punt, 5 plays punt, 3 plays punt. After the blocked extra point, you heard Brian Schottenheimer talk about it. He said that gave us a spark. They punted one more time, but then touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, field goal. Really no more stops for Green Bay from that point on. And it's, again, a situation here where if you're a Packer fan reflecting on this game, it just feels like you're your own worst enemy at times. And you could run through a number of scenarios. Obviously, you have the blocked extra point, which just can't happen, especially a week after you lose the game on a blocked field goal. Like, that is just mind-boggling that can continue to be an issue. I saw a ton of Packer fans were talking about, Rich Bisaccia. like I don't like to call out jobs. I saw Andy wrote that, Andy Herman. But, that's a real issue right there. You're on the 1 yard line twice, and you have Elton Jenkins move the ball. You have Jordan Morgan with the false start. Obviously, the biggest one to me was the Jordan Love fumble, actually, with 21 seconds left. Packers are aggressive, as they should be. They're moving up and down the field the entire half. But they're trying to get a field goal. Justin Houston winds up coming around the edge and recovering a fumble as Jordan's winding back to throw. It's just these little things, right? And even in the moment, you're kind of like, maybe the blocked extra point doesn't matter. But then you're sitting there at the end of the game, and it's 40-37, or what was it, 35? Towards the end there, what was the score here? 34-37. And you're just going, man, this would be a game winner for us, not a game tire, had we just executed properly there. So I understand the frustration, and the chat I can see is kind of feeling a little bizarre here. Ziggy will be back tomorrow or on Tuesday. Ziggy is in Iceland right now. He's having fun in Iceland, but I think it's like 5 a.m. So maybe, by the time this thing ended, maybe Ziggy was waking up. But yeah, ultimately just watching this thing here, great game. Really fun to watch. If you're a Packer fan, many reasons to be extremely annoyed because that was a Cowboy team that you felt you had to beat. And maybe there was a little too much. The past 2 weeks with Green Bay, we've seen the fan base and we've seen the media come into these games saying the Packers should handily win this. Even after losing to Cleveland, people were saying, let's take care of the Cowboys. But it wasn't we could lose this game. It's like, all right, we're going to stomp the Cowboys now and then we'll move on. Maybe there just needs to be a reset here. And it's a nice time for the bye for Green Bay as well, given the injuries. Micah flaring up his back. Aaron Banks was out. Zach Tom was out. You usually don't like early season byes, but after the red-hot start that Green Bay got off to, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world with the way the past 2 weeks have gone. Just completely reset this thing, figure out what's going on, and try and get right coming out in week 6 when I just want to see they come back and they have the Bengals. So that is a spot at home, right, where you're hoping that you can end up getting back to 3-1-1. Mark C, thanks for the super chat. So many Green Bay apologists in the chat. Stay strong tonight, Paul. No, look, it was really fun for me to watch. My season's over. Like, after watching the Vikings Steelers game today, I realized that my season's just over. We have no quarterback situation this year. But yeah, I'm seeing in the chat right here, Jordan Love builds off this game, keeps it pushing. Jordan Love, elite game. That, if you want to really have the takeaway, the defense was horrible. You have to hope that it was just Dak having an on night. And sometimes he's like that. Like, Dak, for all the flack he gets, can sling it as well as anyone in the league when he's on. And George Pickens, for all the crap that you have to go through when he's on your team, he does have some just absolutely sensational catches. The one that he had right before half with Evan Williams, I think was, hammered him. And I think it was Nate Hobbs in coverage. I'm not entirely sure right now. But unbelievable catch. Sets up the touchdown, and then obviously he has the 15-yard catch immediately after the Jordan Love fumble. But sometimes that happens. The takeaway that I'd have, though, is, Jordan was just awesome. And in a big moment, maybe you could say that the late clock management was a little bit iffy. But other than that, every single time you needed it towards the end of this game, Green Bay ended the game with one, two, three, four, 5 straight scoring drives, 3 of them touchdowns, the last 2 field goals to tie the game. He was just great. And I thought he responded really well after a game where a lot of people, obviously, he wasn't the main culprit, or he was one of the main culprits in the Browns game. But some people were really tough on Jordan after that interception that he threw to Grant Delpit. And I thought he was just great. And the Packer offense should continue to get better. You think about Jaden Reed returning and Christian Watson later in the year. You just need to be able to stay in striking distance with Detroit because they look like they're rolling again. That's where I was going to say a loss. That's where a tie like this can feel infuriating towards the end of the year when it's coming down the home stretch. But again, I'm just running through this, taking a look at some of the things Green Bay did. A couple big time penalties. Let me see here. I'm not going to run through all of them. I had a few, like Jordan Morgan had a bad hold that killed a drive on the second drive of the game. Carl Brooks had the face mask on Dak at the end of the game. Edrin Cooper had a big miss in overtime on the 1st and 10 run that I thought could have blown it up. Otherwise, though, just a great football game and one that you saw Green Bay and Dallas. The offenses became unstoppable. And you just were hoping to get a little bit more from Micah. You're waiting for that signature moment, right? And you had the opportunity to have it 2 or 3 different times as Dallas got the ball, and they just continued to make big play after big play. All right, what's the chat here saying? I see that there's a couple super chats coming in, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in late night. It's funny watching this game. The later and later it gets, I'm thinking, all right, like we gotta, I want to get this show over with here. We need a better special teams coach, low key throwing. Yeah, again, the block was horrible, but it did extend beyond that. I still am not quite sure. Matthew Golden's super fast. We all know that, right? He's an explosive player, but you saw the hit he took from Maris Liufau early in the second quarter. Notre Dame guy, by the way, Maris Liufau, who had a major penalty later on. But you just don't want your first-round rookie receiver taking hits like that. I mean, he spin move, and then he just popped. And I was shocked how quickly Golden got up. It's a scary hit. When you have someone running full speed at you like that. But yeah, and here a lot of this here. Does Rich Bisaccia have a job on Monday? I think he will. But it's just Packer fans are exhausted with this special teams play. And I was actually kind of wondering, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, when Aubrey continuously was kicking the ball inside, in the landing zone and rolled into the end zone, they made a point of it several times on the broadcast, how the ball is placed at the 20. At some point, I'm wondering, is it just worth it to, return that thing? In overtime, maybe it's different because you just want to make sure there's no fumble or fluke play to give Jordan the ball back, especially when he's cooking like that. But you're wondering at some point, is it worth just returning that and seeing if you could get to 25 or 30, gain an extra couple yards there. Micah saved us from a Packers L or from an L. Packers fans chill. Yeah, he did on the Dak Prescott scramble to the end zone. Let Aubrey try from 75. He makes it. They win. Yeah, I mean, Aubrey could hit from seemingly anywhere, it seems. Lions take the division here. Love looked great. Love slander's unacceptable. Matt LaFleur was bad. Rich was straight up evil. Fire Rich from Sounds Epic Music. I know a lot of Packers fans were upset with LaFleur in this one. And then there at the end of the game, that disaster that nearly happened, that's also on LaFleur. He has to make sure his team's ready for those situations. And ultimately, though, let's zoom back out here, guys. It was a great football game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Awesome for Sunday Night Football to the two great franchises, right? And Brian Schottenheimer, got to give him credit because Jerry Jones made a hire that everybody thought was just insane. And maybe at the end of the day, it'll ultimately wind up still being an insane hire. But through 4 weeks right now, the Cowboys, the defense has a lot of issues, and you saw it again tonight. But they're not they're a competitive team. And as long as they have Dak throwing the football, they're going to be. And I think Schottenheimer, outside of the Bears game, competitive with Philly. They had the huge comeback against the Giants at the very end. I thought that he's been pretty decent. And you got to give him credit because no one believed in him. And maybe people still don't. But I think he's done a solid job so far. Ryu Hitsuya says, what a complete and utter mess of a team performance. All around horrendous play. Even scoring 40 never looked so hideous. Defense vanishes horrid. A lot of the problem that I think Packer fans are feeling right now is that last week Defense plays out of its mind most of the game. And then at the very end, they give up the field goal. Jordan then throws the pick. They allow the touchdown to tie it. Special teams messes up. It's like it feels like each unit is building, on each other's mistake. And then tonight, you trust the defense completely, and you're saying, "Hey, let's get the offense back." And the defense out of nowhere falls apart. So I can understand the Packer frustration of, can we just get these units playing in sync again? The way it looked in week 1, the way it looked in week 2, what happened there? This is not the right comparison. The Saints last year started off fantastic, and then they fell apart. Like, things happen. There are ups and downs during a football season. It's totally okay to be frustrated if you're a Green Bay fan tonight. I don't think the sky is falling. Like, some people are reacting. I mean, Ryutsuya right there. Like, you can be mad, but I still think this Packer team is very competitive. They just need a little bit of figuring out their identity again. And obviously, losing is worse, but a tie still feels a little incomplete, especially when you get down inside the 15-yard line at the end of the game there. But this is not panic time. This is just, hey, we got to button some things up. And I ran through everything right there before. You had a bunch of major penalties in this game. You had the blocked punt. You had the fumble or the blocked extra point. You had the fumble before half. You allowed the ridiculous Dak 40-yard throw to Tolbert. It was just a litany of miscues from Green Bay throughout the game, which was just a crazy game, and it happens. But if you come into a playoff scenario, it just takes one of those moments to end your entire season. And the Packers need to be more buttoned up because when you're playing Philly, when you're playing Detroit again, it's going to cost you. And they have better defenses than the Cowboys do, especially Philadelphia. The big takeaway again, though, for you, if you want to focus on the positive, is how good Jordan looked. He looked like a Super Bowl caliber quarterback tonight. And yeah, you're right. Kerry right here goes, Lions won this game. Yeah, if you're a Lions fan, you feel great because it was one that Green Bay, it could have gone either way. But a tie is a win for you because now the Lions are sitting atop the division at 3-1. Let's see what else we got here. Paul, you only say that it isn't a big deal because you have to pander to your Packers channel. That's not true. Like, what? Why if I were a Packers fan, am I making this a huge deal? You just played a game in week 4 of the season. Dak got hot. Your offense put up 40. Jordan looked great, responded well. It's not, I'm not, if the Packers were terrible tonight, I would come out and say it, and they were terrible on defense tonight. They were great on offense tonight. I don't think this means to freak out because they were the best defense in football through 3 weeks. If they come out and get lit up by Jake Browning in 2 weeks after the bye, then there's maybe something to panic about. But let's be reasonable here, right? You don't need to freak out because you had one really bad half, essentially, against the Cowboys. It was really up until that drive at the end of the half with the crazy Pickens catch that got the Cowboy offense going. Let's see what else we have here. Missing Reed in certain situations on offense. Yeah, I think Jaden Reed has been, in general, the number 1 receiver for this Packers team over the past couple of years. I know that they don't have a true one, and that's the talking point that so many people, including myself, have brought up for when content's low and you need to think of something to say. But obviously, if you're missing your pseudo one, that's a big deal. And I like Dontavian Wicks. I do like Matthew Golden, but I don't think they're as good as Christian Watson or Jaden Reed would be right now. So that will be a huge addition to this team when they come back. And you do have to remember, I haven't really talked about this too much yet, but Aaron Banks and Zach Tom were out. That's a huge loss. The Vikings today, at one point, were playing without Ryan Kelly. They're playing without Brian O'Neill, and they didn't have Donovan Jackson. When you have to back up offensive linemen in, it can get bad. It can get really bad. And the fact that Jordan was only, I know that they weren't winning at the line most of the night, but Jordan only being sacked one time, he had a lot of really key scrambles. In particular, let me make sure I get the play right here. He had one scramble on, where was it here? 3rd and 2. They were down 23-20 earlier. I mean, before it got into a real shootout here. And he had a 25-yard scramble. People remember the play I'm talking about where, Jordan's like kind of dead to rights. And That's some of the mobility that he was missing last season. Another reason why you feel good about him going forward this year. He looks completely healthy, and on a night like tonight, his mobility was showcased quite well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here's one and done from Rocket. Look, you might be one and done. The NFC is really good. You can run through the entire conference. Philly and Detroit are right up there with you guys. Baker can be explosive. You saw it today. I know that Philly had control of that game most of the way through, but the Buccaneers are resilient, man, and they just keep coming at you. They just keep coming. And down 8, Baker had a chance to tie that thing, and Philly ultimately was able to make enough plays late to win it. But the Buccaneers are not an easy out. The Commanders, if they get hot, we saw what they could do last season. I'm not huge on San Francisco, but the Rams are obviously in the playoffs very good. And Seattle's off to a great start. That defense is the real deal. And so has Sam Darnold's been the real deal. I'm regretting it every single day as a Viking fan that we don't have him. Joe says, love you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And all my fellow Packers fans, relax. Long season ahead, and we have a patched up line. At least we're not the Vikings or Bears fans. All right. You're right. But we don't need to go there tonight. Let's be civil, guys. Yeah, and that's ultimately the main takeaway from my reaction based on your guys' chat reaction here is to just take a breath. Like you obviously want to win this game, but you had all the injuries, you had a lot of miscues again. You have to get right, come out and beat the Bengals. You lose to the Bengals, we could start to all right, what the hell is happening at this team? But we're not there right now. I always refer to college football. You guys have heard me say that before. The way you feel about a team in September and the way you feel about a team in November, it doesn't matter at all. Like September football in college, those losses, like Notre Dame, right, the team I root for, if they're 10-2, you're talking completely differently about the team than you are in September. It's such a week-to-week show, or sport kind of is a show, right, that you feel so differently after every game. If you guys come out and beat the crap out of the Bengals, you're going to be feeling really good again. Ty from Phoenix, Ty's dumbest thing in football, both losers. That's kind of how it feels. It does feel like you lost the game in a sense, especially because with a tie, right, there can be advantages in that it might be a tiebreaker down the road. But in this case, when you're competing against a Lions team that maybe ends the year with 11 or 12 wins and it's a tough schedule in the NFC North, this tie can actually act as a pseudo loss. And that's where we don't know until we get into December football. But when you're looking back on this 2-week stretch here for the Packers, look, not panicking going forward, but what I am saying is that if there is going to be a moment of reflection on this year, these 2 weeks could be unbelievably massive because the Packers should probably be 4-0 going into this bye. You have to think that with the way you got out you're beating the Browns 10-0 in the fourth quarter when their offense couldn't do anything, and you're up 13-0 with a chance at going up 14-0 and you have an extra point blocked. Like, those are games that you got to finish. And if we're sitting here talking about the Packers as a wild card team going into Detroit or going into Tampa Bay or going to LA, as opposed to hosting a team like the Seahawks, who again we think are good, but obviously you'd rather host. Or if you get the Commanders, who you already pummeled, that means a lot. And that this could be what you look back on saying, wow, okay, if we had just been able to figure out how to put that game away. That's one thing the Packers need to figure out now. It looked like they had it figured out early on in the year. They put Detroit to sleep. When Detroit missed when the Brian Branch pick six was taken back, it was all systems go for Green Bay from then on. And when Detroit was backed up inside their 5, you saw those, the dogs that the Packers have on the edge pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. You didn't see that tonight. Dak was sacked one time, and I mean, it was for 0 yards. I'm trying to remember the play. I think he was like literally on the line of scrimmage. You have to get after him, especially with the offensive line performance that the Cowboys have had so far this year. And that's a spot where you can easily be frustrated. See a couple more questions right here. Andrew Jones, week 1 is an anomaly. Green Bay is trash. end the stream before Ziggy becomes a Packers fan. I think we're okay right now. Benjamin says, this is what fans do. Overreact to every game. 2 weeks ago, the narrative was KC is done and the Ravens are top 3 team. Every team can beat every team. It takes a whole season and some luck to win it all. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. The thing that I'll go back to, though, is it's a little easier to get lucky when now Packers fans might come at me and say, all right, like, look at our history of playing at home. But you'd obviously rather be at home for these playoff runs here. I actually thought the overtime, too, was great. The rule change from what they had in the past, where if you scored a touchdown first on offense, the game was over. I really enjoyed this new format where you score, then you have that option of going for 2 or kicking the extra point if you were to score a touchdown. I think it adds a fun strategy to the game, right? Where if you're Dallas there and you score, do you want to give the ball back to Green Bay, who can then go and score a touchdown, maybe have the opportunity to score 2 and win it? Or would you rather put the pressure on them and try and get the 2? I think that was just really fun and a great rule change from the NFL here. Let me ask you guys real quick. Right now in the chat, just tell me how you're feeling 1 to 10 on this Packers team moving forward. If 10 is we're going to win the Super Bowl, 1's we're missing the playoffs. Let's say 7 is like, I'm feeling we're probably going to be like, maybe 1 win in the playoffs. Like, where are you feeling? You could go on a longer rant if you want. But yeah, and I'll see what you guys say here. But I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a lot of fun. 7, 4. Yeah, they're starting to come in here. 8, 7.5. I think that's the right spot. I think you're probably feeling like a 6 or a 7 right now. And by the time we get to tomorrow, most people will probably be at around a 7. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of 8s, 6s. And I think that's the right spot here. This is a team that got off to a just unbelievable start, and it was one that we all kind of we're like, whoa, if they do this, we're talking about a 14-3 team maybe. Maybe this is the best team since the Aaron Rodgers. It was 2011, right, when you guys were like 15-1 or something. Every now and then you just need to be reminded, all right, let's take a deep breath here. This is a 17-game season over the course of 18 weeks. There will be ups, there will be downs. Just get right here. And in the battle with Detroit, because I think ultimately at this point, I think it's going to be a two-horse race between the Packers and Lions for the division. One very important thing to remember for all the Packers fans who are very upset right now, you still have the tiebreaker over Detroit at the moment. And that was a big one, or not tiebreaker, but you have the win over Detroit, right? Now, this is one thing that's annoying about a tie, is that unless Detroit ties, that tiebreaker now is it's not going to matter, but you got that win, and we'll see what happens over Thanksgiving. All right. Getting ready to wrap this thing up here. It's been a lot of fun. Again, please remember, if you've been enjoying the show, to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel as we're chasing down 25,000 subscribers. I think we're getting close to 24K. It's been a lot of fun talking with everybody here. What, Sean Stevens? Oh, shut up, Paul. The Vikings just got reminded they are on the bottom barrel with the Bears. I'm not talking smack. I'm being very reasonable here, I think. I'm being kind to Green Bay, all things considered. The defense was terrible. I can't tell you guys how frustrated I am as a Viking fan. Did you guys watch the game today? It was 24-21, and we got killed. We had it was a fun comeback there at the end, and the Vikings do this thing where they can find a way to break your heart no matter what. But that was that was a terrible performance against a Steeler team that had been absolutely torched by New England the week before, the Jets in week 1, and Seattle had a double-digit win, albeit there was the horrible Caleb Johnson kickoff fumble. That was miserable. And I feel very bad about the future of the Vikings right now. So don't worry. I am not talking smack right now as a Viking fan. Don't worry, Sean. Sean says, I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd read it. No, I do see what you guys say. But yeah, I don't feel great right now. And I actually walk outside. You guys will probably enjoy this. I walk outside today, or I'm sitting downstairs in my basement watching the games, and I get a text from my neighbor that's like, someone's messing with your car right now. What? What? That doesn't happen. In my area, it's never happened before here. I'm like, okay, what? And then he goes, seriously, man, someone's effing with your car. And my neighbor is 17 years old right now. So I'm like, oh shit. I come upstairs and I look, and they're Steelers fans. They had drawn the Steeler logo on the hood of the car. 24-21 on the side, big ghost Steelers. I'm like, all right, this is just what this season's going to be like, isn't it? But you know what? We lost. At the end of the day, you got to take the loss and just move on with it. I'm really another positive though for any Viking fan in the chat right here right now. One, I guess, silver lining you can make that's not really a silver lining is the answer's obvious. To just throw JJ back in now when he's healthy, and we're just gonna see what happens. The mindset to me on this year has completely changed. I was hoping coming into the year, and it was a lot of hope. I was being optimistic, Paul, but you're hoping that the Vikings could find a way with JJ to capture some of the magic from last year, where if JJ's just a stable quarterback, they have everything else in place to go and compete for a Super Bowl or an NFC Championship game appearance. We are clearly very far away from that. I know I said don't overreact, but when you're watching these games, you kind of can pick up on the sense. This, to me, has now turned into a year where if we can get to the playoffs, it's a major success. Massive success if we can even get to the playoffs. Because right now, you don't know what JJ is moving forward. Like, this could be a 4-win team. This could be a 10-win team. I'd probably say we come in around 6 or 7 at the moment. It's not very good. And I think the Lions at this point in time are probably the one. Like, they're the ones that I'd be scared of in the NFC North at this point in time. Yeah, I see Joe Mama says Lions will choke in the divisional anyways. Like, yeah, they're cursed. They probably will. But after 4 weeks, if we're seriously analyzing the NFC North, the Lions look like the best team again right now, despite the Week 1 game. Richard said, it's disappointing the past few weeks as a Packers fan. We'll be okay, though. You all do a great job, Paul. I appreciate the realistic and even takes. Let's see in a few weeks. Did they lose, moron? The Lions lost to Green Bay? I know they lost to Green Bay. I watched the game. Have you watched the past 2 weeks, man? The Lions went to Baltimore, looked great, and won that football game. I know what happened to the Ravens, but they lost a lot of guys against the Chiefs here. And then the Lions today pummeled the team that beat you guys. So it's, yeah, like I at the end of the day, I don't think we need to be doing these like comparisons of who beat who and what. You're watching the football games right now. The Lions have come a long way from where they were a month ago when the season started, or 3 weeks ago when the season started. And the Packers have regressed a little bit from where they were 3 weeks ago. Is part of that probably injuries to the offensive line for Green Bay? Detroit gets a little healthier on defense. Yes, like it's a football season. There are ups and downs. If they played today on a neutral field, I think that the Lions would probably win the football game. What do you guys think? This is going to be, kind of a. This is probably going to be a big Packer thing. But if the Lions and Packers played today on a neutral field, try and be honest. Who do you think would win the football game? Let me know. Let me see. Was there any other final? I thought there was one. Oh, yeah. The one thing that I would be a little concerned about is, and I had brought this up several times this offseason, like Nate Hobbs, yes, he's dealing with a knee injury. He was kind of getting torched today. I saw a lot of people calling for Carrington Valentine. And then you're watching some Carrington Valentine plays. You're like, that doesn't look so hot either. Just something to pay attention to is if that Packer pass rush isn't getting home, this cornerback unit started the year off really hot, and we know Nate Hobbs wasn't playing, but it's a unit that still needs to prove itself, at least to me, to a degree. Where, yeah, when Micah and Gary and Van Ness, when they're getting to the quarterback, that's when you start to see these guys making mistakes. They get rushed. And it's a lot easier, obviously, to play cornerback when the quarterback that is being flushed out of the pocket and forced to make a bad, quick decision on the run. That's just something to keep an eye on, is how this unit continues to play over the course of the year, because Jair was for a long time the number one cornerback, and you're asking some guys to elevate their play. Keyshawn Nixon, obviously, is like with all the PFF rankings and stuff, was at the very top, but that is just one spot to keep an eye on. And I want to see more from Edgerrin Cooper. I don't know. Let's see. What did he end with today as far as tackles go? I mean, he had 7 tackles, 5 solo. He had a pass defended. I mean, the numbers look good, but you want to have that major play from him. And we were expecting him to be one of those guys who takes the superstar jump potentially. And I think he's still been decent, but to me, his name hasn't been in my ear during the broadcast as much as I'd want as a Packer fan, because I think he has the ability to really, be a game changer, and I haven't seen that so far. There was someone last thing, and then I'll get out of here. Someone said that I missed his super chat. The Lions don't get credit for the wins versus ass defenses only today, and we mollywop them on a neutral field. Don't care. The Lions don't get credit for the wins versus ass defenses only today. I mean, look, they won in Baltimore. That's a great win. I know the Ravens didn't play well, but I'm giving it to them. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. That was a lot of fun. We had a great chat tonight. Everyone's really active. Whether or not you're happy or not with the game, I'm glad that you shared your opinion. And look, that's what it's about, right? We're here after these games, and as long as it's civil, and generally on this channel it is pretty civil, it's fun just to engage back and forth and see how everyone's feeling. Obviously, you don't want to walk away in a tie if you're a Green Bay fan tonight, but it's just a great football game. It was really fun to watch, and it's week 4. So let's everyone take a deep breath. Packers fans, you're going into your bye. Cowboys sitting here at 1-2-1 right now, probably feeling pretty good after the start to the year. Maybe like as far as like competing for a wild card, you're like, all right, Dak plays like that, we could be really good. Obviously, the defense is messed up, but again, appreciate everybody. We're gonna have reactions coming out this week. We'll be on with Herman, with Andy on Wednesday. Maybe, probably not something tomorrow with Ziggy to get his opinion on the game, but we'll probably be back for this game, or for the Behind Enemy Lines with Andy Herman. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you later this week.